Hello, my name is Evan Manning, and this is a case study for AEP 855 when ethics and policies collide. The first slide was the NELP Standard 2, which was sort of the overarching principle that we were supposed to consider sort of as a generalized lens throughout the process. And the school in which the case study took place was the Rocket Junior High. Category 1 was to summarize the data and establish the facts. So first, when looking at what happened at a very general look, a weapon was brought to school by a student. Specifically, they were brass knuckles. The weapon changed hands to a different student, one considered sort of an honor student or one with no record. Yet both students were charged with possession of a weapon when the officer was called in to do the search. Even with the initial student who actually brought the weapon, took ownership over that. And the principal doesn't want to comply with filing both students' paperwork because of sort of the extenuating circumstances. As far as the when and where, again, it was Rocket Junior High, and what we can assume is a diverse area. There'll be more analysis for why I believe that during a later slide. And the case study we know was at least written before 2012, but don't exactly know if there was a given year, which will become important potentially at a later time. The next section was to discuss who was involved. This was specifically Richard Inman, of whom was the principal. James, this was the student with the record who actually brought the weapon to school and coerced David, the second student, the honors student, to hold the weapon while he went to the office. The parents of both David and James were discussed in the case study, as well as a school resource officer and a figure from the central office, who we will discuss in greater depth momentarily. Category 2 was to discuss the legal or ethical issues associated with the case study. So there are three sort of identifications here that we needed to discuss. First, has anyone been harmed? And I said no, except potentially David psychologically, as far as the future, what's happened, having this happen to him without much justification or any sort of past experience, and potentially James, which I think might go overlooked in some facets, because obviously the relationship of which the principal was trying to develop with not only James, but the group of individuals that James sort of helps lead. It was one that was important for the overall school culture and dynamic, and that could potentially go away if it looks as though the principal was throwing James under the bus if there was an option. Not that doesn't mean that it's justifiable, but it's definitely something that could harm the school culture. The second question was existing law. In Kansas, there is a no tolerance or a zero tolerance statute, which we'll get into a little bit more later when talking about the justification for what I thought was the ethical choice. And also the school board that was actually being discussed, or the district, also had a specific no tolerance in place, although we don't have the specifics of the way in which the language was written, which I also think is something that will come up later as something that I wish that we had more information over. Next was the question of whether or not there was any sort of an issue with constitutional or contract or harassment issues. I think the overall search was okay. The Safford Unified School District versus Reading in '09, which is one of the more recent questions about searches and seizures, specifically with warrant versus unwarranted, and specifically inside of school buildings, indicates that as long as there was a scenario in which it was not a search that was exculpatory or that was beyond what they call like normal, then it would be just, as well as if there was any sort of a justification for the safety of the students, which obviously, if it could have been a weapon, that probably applies. Category 3 was to discuss and synthesize what happened in a single statement. And this went with one of the standards that we were supposed to isolate specifically, which I isolated above. The thesis was, is the current mandate to file paperwork against David an ethical one? And if not, can or how can the advocation for the decision be communicated to the central office? Category 4 was to synthesize these facts. And here, I thought that a quotation from the green text about the practicing art of leadership, and specifically how problem-based approaches can be problems in sort of intensive standard questioning, and especially when discussing, and I like to focus on the necessity for school leaders to be politically astute, socially connected, and understand economic influences with the knowledge of legal ramifications, that all that sort of operates as a collective, but also inside of that, you have to take a lot of different factors, which I think makes the difficulty of this specific case study one that was interesting, but also difficult. So 3 isolated areas that we were supposed to discuss inside of this portion were the people that were directly involved and what it would mean to them with that synthesizing of the information. So at the student level, obviously with David, what the ramifications would be for that student if we go by what is a given in the text is that he would have to be expelled and go to an alternative school. And obviously, as an honor student and one of high rigor and of high mastery, that could be problematic for things such as college transcripts or other scholarship opportunities. So there is obviously a fairly important and direct consequence for the actions and the data that we have. As far as James, obviously the text indicates that this is not exactly his first time in these scenarios, but it also does, again, make mandate to kind of show that there has been a change over time, and that it would be really important to try to keep James on that path and to hope that this is not just a speed bump, but a true wall getting in the way of the progress that's been made at Rocket Junior High. The parents, we have a little bit of background information about James's parent, where we find out that there isn't as much interest in trying to get James out of the situation, and in fact was told to leave James in custody so that hopefully he learns from this mistake. Whereas David's parents were obviously very upset about the situation and not understanding why David was given the same basically punishment as James with the given context. The people at the school were the principal, who was obviously struggling with what to do as far as their own ethical and moral dilemma. The police officer, who was following the law to a T, which is neither bad nor good, but I do think that that is something that is isolated in the text. And the secondary schools director, who also seems to be wanting the policy to be valued as a prior condition to potential ethical questions, especially as per the principal. The place, and sort of giving some more intense justification for why I believe some things in the opening. It's a 5A district, at least in the context of what Kansas would be. And sort of knowing that world and seeing the diversity of that, I think is important with the population, as well as the diversity. They discuss things like the wrong side of the tracks, and that there are honors and not honors, and obviously with the central office focus, the differentiation in jobs there in the central office, as well as having a resource officer in building, all lead me to believe that it's a larger district. So obviously we have a large individual junior high school that would feed into a larger high school even than that. And you're probably looking at a sort of maybe even a 6A high school setting and a very large junior high, if not a large 5A situation there. And that diversity leads to some potential issues later on. As far as program concerns, it is a public school, again, a middle or junior high school. And again, from the text, we have no background into whether there were special education accommodations or socioeconomic status accommodations, which I think would be important, especially in the context of what's happening here, because of potential manifestation hearings. If the manifestation of the disciplinary action was as a result of any specific accommodation or special education, then obviously all this would change. And that would be interesting to note, but nothing that we have specifically isolated for us. Next was category 5, reviewing and prioritizing the facts. Stakeholder issues. Again, media with the district size would probably be large. The parent backlash proper, meaning from the individual parents, has already been discussed. And parent backlash external from other parents. If they found out that there were weapons and nothing happened, obviously that would be a potential issue. Or if zero tolerance policies had been followed in the past and weren't being followed in this instance, there could be external backlash. And obviously board policy issues as well. The school board, if not being followed directly with their mandates, could have ramifications as well. Where could I improve, or what data would I want to know? I think I would want to know the actual timing of the study. Again, that really matters in the context of the law. There's a lot of law and distinction changes pre-2009 with the way in which zero tolerance policies were written specifically in the state of Kansas. And in new articles that I researched, for example, from the Harvard Civil Rights Group and from the Wichita Eagle, a lot of 2012 and 2015 changes and challenges have allowed for more leeway and gray area inside of this area, which again could make all the difference in the world as far as an administrator's decisions. But when we don't have that, that becomes problematic, as well as wanting to have the no tolerance policy in hand for any specific logistical data and wording, as well as what is a note in the file. It's the only isolated punishment that would happen to the principal for the reprimand, and to know what that would really mean would be important to deciding as far as what ethical ramifications could come back on the principal. So the key stasis point question was to model ethical behavior in their personal contact relationships and cultivate ethical behavior in others. So I think this is important because how could I follow these ideas while filing the paperwork? And that was sort of an overarching lens that I used in my eventual decision making. Category 6 was discussing the identification of options. There's basically 3, although only 2 that really make sense in the context of the data given. 1, file the paperwork, avoid a reprimand, and be ethical to the policy. 2, don't file, potential reprimand, but you would be ethical to the student. And then 3, which would be an interesting question, but not one we have enough data to probably make a justifiable alternative, would be to file, but have the student win an appeal hearing through helping the process of what that would look like. Category 7 was evaluation of options. Again, the lack of information limits a myriad of alternative choices that could have been. Also, the law changes could have options and choices that are now left are very linear, sort of like all yes or all no, and not ones that I really love either way. Filing paperwork has larger risks in my understanding. I think the larger legal ramifications for filing this, knowing what we'll discuss later, is important. And not filing is probably only a personal implication, at least with the given data, as per the principal's reprimand. Category 8 was choosing the best option. I choose the only ethical decision grounded in the law and the ethical dynamics through the lens of the school setting. I will not file the paperwork to expel the student. Category 9 was the implementation analysis with the specific question above. So my analysis is over a few bases. First, duress. I think that duress is important here because if there's a threat of serious bodily harm when committing an offense, then the Constitution, as well as a lot of legal precedents, are a justification for not pressing charges against the individual. And for this reason, I think there's precedent to not file charges against David, as James admitted to the duress that he caused. Also, the Kansas zero tolerance law indicates a willful violation as a key component for zero tolerance. And I don't think that what James did to David would allow for a willful question. Also, the NELP 2.3 isolates that the ethics inside a relationship with students has to be modeled. And I don't think that that ethical decision for the student and the relationship between David and the principal in this situation would be occurring if the paperwork were filed. So for me, it's not a question of if not filing paperwork is just, but if paperwork were filed, it would violate ethics. So with that being said, that would be my decision. And those legal and ethical questions, I think, are ones in which to take precedent over following the policy in this instance. Although, again, I think that new information could be important and recency could also help as per opening up more options. With that being said, I thank you for your time and I leave you with my references.